Hey, everybody out there. Welcome to the Exes podcast. I'm Scott.
I'm Therese.
And we're the Exes. And we're also best friends and now like crime enthusiasts. I'm new at it. You've been doing this
doing
for
good.
forever.
Not forever.
If you were old enough, you would have been the original Scooby-Doo gang. But anyway, so that's what we're here. We're here to talk about being exes. But really, today we're really going to push because we've got a lot to unfold here. And hey, Mom's with us. Hi, kids. It's our favorite statement.
Yes, it is.
It's our favorite statement. We got a lot to unfold with this murder that we're talking about today. And what we're talking about is the Murdaugh or Murdaugh, depending on who you talk to, murders. And basically, it is centered around this family right here. Okay, if you're saying they look like rednecks, you would be absolutely right, but they have a lot of money, so they're rich rednecks. Starting from the left to the right, we've got the oldest son, whose name is Buster, believe it or not. The mother, what was her name?
Maggie.
Isn't
that Paul? I think that's Paul on that end.
No. Paul's the one with the hat on.
Are you sure?
No, I'm not sure now.
Okay.
Now you're making me question it. I believe Paul, because Buster was always taller than Paul. So Paul, then there's Paul, the son, and then the father, Alex. And, the first thing you want to know about this family is that the father is a lawyer. He was a prosecutor.
Well, he was a lawyer.
He was a lawyer, but he was a prosecutor for like 5 different counties in where they lived, and in Hampton, Allendale, Beaufort, Jasper County, just this pretty big area. And he stopped being a prosecutor. His family had a law firm, and he was involved in the law firm, and they were quite well off with several different properties, certainly boats and vehicles and hunting dogs and gun collections, and it goes on and on. But and the family was pretty powerful. From what I understand, they were respected and powerful in their area for a long time, weren't they?
Yeah. Yes. Generations. Yeah.
Yeah. And this was a family that you didn't mess with. And we're going to explain how far that we don't mess with this family goes, which is just crazy. I mean, should we start right off with the very first problem, or is there any background you want to give on this first?
Sure. No, go ahead. Start off with the very first problem.
The very first problem. So first of all, this trial is live right now as we are sitting here. All day today, the prosecutor was finishing his summation. I believe he did finish today, right?
Yes.
He did finish. When they took the lunch break, I thought this guy's never going to get done. But he finally did get his summation finished. And tomorrow, it looks like the defense is going to have their chance to start their summation. I don't know if it's going to be a 2-day summation or if it's a 1-day summation or whatever else. Yes, you're right. Hey, Mary Kay is with us. Hello, Scott and Therese. Good to see you, Mary Kay.
Hello.
Hey, make sure you guys join us tomorrow night, Mary Kay and I, for The Life Between. We got a special guest, a friend of mine who wrote a book called Fear. He's going to be on tomorrow night, so check us out. And very prominent family. And my mom has watched the whole trial too. So that's okay. Awesome. So all of that. Very prominent family with money and power. Starting back in 2015, in July of 2015, there was a mysterious death of one of Buster's. Remember, the oldest son, Buster. One of his high school classmates was found dead in the middle of the road. Mm-hmm. He was 3 miles from his car. The story that was gone with for a while, or that some people went with, was that he ran out of gas, or he either had a problem or he ran out of gas. I think it was ran out of gas. And he started walking, and he walked about 3 miles from his car. And then he was apparently hit by a car and left in the middle of the road. The cause of death, as written by the coroner, was blunt force trauma due to an automobile accident or a hit and run. a lot of people, including Highway Patrol, disagreed with that because of the position of the body,
Mm-hmm.
because of the type of injuries, which
Mm-hmm.
how can that be the only major injury, a blunt force trauma to the head after getting hit by a car?
Right.
He was wearing shoes that were like barely on his feet. They were just like slip-ons,
Yeah.
and he didn't get knocked out of his shoes. You
Yes.
get hit by a car, you tumble, you do certain things. He was almost like staged laying in the street.
Yeah.
With now, how does this connect to our Murdaugh family? Well, again, Buster and this boy Stephen were apparently there was a connection to them having had a romantic relationship. And this family, in theory, the family is one to protect their reputation and to make things
Mm-hmm.
like that go away.
Yeah. And so I don't know if that's really a true thing or if that was a rumor, but yes, the kid that died was gay,
Yep.
and it was being talked about that they were friends and they may have been more than friends.
Yeah, exactly. And they did. Hey, Lynn's with us too. Hey, Lynn, how are you? Thanks for joining us. The impact on the head could have been caused by a blunt force trauma from like a bat or something of that nature. They were able to determine it is quite possible with timelines that Buster could have been there, even with his younger brother and maybe several other kids. And so they had determined there was all these possibilities that this could have happened, but it never got investigated until now. The case was reopened when all of the other stuff started coming to light about the Murdaugh family. But this is back in 2015. There was never any real questioning of anybody. There was never any real looking into it.
Right.
It was handled, I would say, very poorly. But I think the reason it was handled poorly because it pointed to a family you didn't want to mess with. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. Yeah. And he had some kind of solicitor badge or which I'm taking, I don't know, it's the South, so I don't know what that all means, but kind of like a volunteer with the police force type thing.
Yeah.
That's what I'm taking it as, but it wasn't official. A lot of people have said it wasn't official. He acted like it was official, but I guess it really wasn't.
No, because he was a prosecutor for so long. It was a political office of sorts, and he did have a relationship with the police, but it wasn't an official position. But he did carry himself like that.
Yeah.
And, what's Lynn saying? This is all a hot mess kind of shit show. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
That's exactly what it is, Lynn. Thank you. We don't have to read the rest. That explains it all right there. So that's how everything started back in 2015. So let's take our little get in our little time capsule here and say 2015. So that was what started nearly 8 years ago.
Yeah. So that was swept under the rug, though.
Swept under the rug. The family never thought it was, and they fought and fought and fought with nobody listening to them, or very few listening to them. Nobody in power listening to them. Oh yes, this is true. He had blue lights. No, this is Alex Murdaugh, the father. Now this goes to what Therese was just saying, that he felt like he was some sort of constable of some kind. He had blue lights installed in his personal vehicle.
Two of them.
Two of them. Okay.
He even had them put on his most recent vehicle, which is only about a year old.
Yes.
Yes.
And this just goes to the state of mind of this guy that he could do whatever he wanted.
Yes.
Because the truth is it's illegal to have those lights installed on your car.
Yes. And he claims that he asked permission, and then they put one of the guys that he said he got permission from on the stand, and he said, no, don't remember that.
That was a retired sheriff's officer. He says the conversation was never had because if it was had, I would have said no.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. So that's where we are right now. Now this is again, on the left is Buster, and on the right is the young boy Stephen, who died, and that was 8 years ago. And to this date, there has been no real resolution. although they have reopened the case. So the truth is, because of all these other murders that have now happened, the case has kind of taken a backseat and there has been no progress that we can report on. All we can tell you is that it was reopened. They were going to look at it. Now let's
Which
jump.
is kind of like, don't you think that's kind of like, I don't know. I mean, I understand the family and I understand that if it was something that they covered up, then yes, it should. But I mean, this one surviving kid, to have that piling up on him on top of everything else, kind of a lot.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, listen, 4 people in the family, one of them's looking at going to jail for the rest of their lives. 2 of them are dead. And the other one, who everybody thought was the innocent one, is now still probably going to be facing a murder charge sometime down the road.
I know.
So this is, this is not the Brady Bunch we're talking about, people. This is welcome to the Murdaugh's murder family. All right. Okay. So that happened in 2015. Move ahead a few years. Now, during this time, there are discrepancies happening at the law office where Murdaugh is now working. This is not coming to light yet, but just so you know, there were some things happening in the background, including his addiction to oxycodone and some larceny and some other things going on. This is not coming to light yet. So during this 3 years, it seems like everything's okay. All of a sudden, 2018, and this, ladies and gentlemen, is Gloria Satterfield, excuse me, and she was the housekeeper for many, many years, who died on the front steps of the house of Murdaugh.
Mm-hmm.
This is in 2018, February of 2018. The story is that she was trying to come up these brick steps. The dogs got in her way. She fell, hit her head, and eventually, by the time they got her to the hospital, had blood loss and died. That is the story. The father was there, Alec. I believe Paul was there, and the mother was there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if Buster was or not, but they were all there, and they were the ones calling 911 and freaking out and doing all this stuff. So now you would say, what a horrible accident, and
Right.
But what did they do next? This is the worst part of this whole thing. What did they do next? They then, Alec Murdaugh, the father, the lawyer, went to the Satterfield's family, brothers and sisters, I believe. And
she had sons.
Sons, right?
Yeah, but I think a sister was involved because one of the sons is mentally challenged.
Right.
Yeah.
He went to them and talked them into following his suggestions on how to move forward and suing his insurance company for the property, for all of this stuff. And he was going to take care of all of it for them and get them a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
At the end,
and he did get them a lot of money.
Well, what did he get?
He got them a lot of money, although he took all of that money. It was like, he took it all.
Yes. I do believe
it was over $1 million, correct?
It was $4.3 million.
Mm-hmm.
It was $4 million. It was a policy on his homeowners that he was able to get $4 million or over $4 million and never gave a dime to the family.
No.
But he represented them. Now, it's not like he went in there and says, I'm suing because this happened on my... He went in and says, I represent this family. So he is not...
he passed them off to one of his lawyer partners.
Oh, who is also in legal trouble now and has been disbarred.
Yes.
Because this is the same lawyer he uses later for the boat problem, too.
Yes.
Yeah. So basically he was involved, though.
Yes.
And because of what he did and the things he wrote down, the things he said, and the things the lawyer did, he now basically has defrauded the insurance company, defrauded the family, and embezzled because his law firm was under the assumption this family got paid.
Yes.
And
it was in a trust for the boys to turn of age and blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
And it never went anywhere but his own bank account.
Yeah.
So this guy Now, we're not sure. The death of the housekeeper, I think that is an open case, but it is an open case because of the fraud.
Yeah, I believe so. I don't think there's any question about the accident at this
Well,
point.
there is an investigation, and they will exhume the body because there was not a proper autopsy performed.
Yeah, that's true.
Because of the witnesses and because of the injury, there was not a proper autopsy performed. Let me see. We got the housekeeper's family is now pursuing action against him as well. Yes.
Yeah, they did. I think they won actually a civil suit because the partners are now paying them. They're getting loans. They're taking out loans in order to pay off those boys.
It is ridiculous. Again, this is Gloria Satterfield. So now we're looking at the deaths again of young Stephen and Gloria, that are both under odd circumstances, that are both connected to the Murdaugh family, and has even been proven that there was some malfeasance, even if it wasn't the murder itself. There was
what?
Malfeasance.
What's that mean?
Wrongdoing.
Oh, okay. All right. Let's keep
word
the
of the
English
day calendar's paying off. I'm telling you.
Oh, good Lord. Jeez.
So there was some badness going on. All right. So you think, okay, this is bad. Now we find out. So this is the first real indication that Alec Murdaugh is embezzling money out of the insurance, out of his firm, and out of this, in doing wrong things with law. This is a real big indication.
But I don't quite know it at the time.
Yeah. No, it took time to discover.
Yeah.
But it was the first one that showed up.
Correct.
By the time it's all done, and again, the timeline on this, Alec Murdaugh is looking at stealing over $8.5 million from clients, family, friends, and his own law firm. $8.5 million. Okay. Anyway, and in between all of this, we still have time for murder. That's why I really do like this guy's ability to multitask. He can steal and kill.
Lovely.
I'm trying to put a happy spin on things because it's going to get. It actually gets worse from here, folks. If you're not familiar with this story, first of all, what rock have you been under? And second of all, buckle up, Buttercup, because it's going to get worse. All right.
Buckle up, Buttercup.
A year later, in 2019, not quite a calendar year. It was like about 10 months later. The young Paul Murdaugh, who is the one all the way to the right with the blonde girl. He's the one with the red hair all the way to the right. And then there is his friends, the two in the middle and the two on the left that were his friends. They were all friends. They all decided to go out and drink. And this was in February of 2019. They went out and they got very, very drunk and then got on the Murdaugh's boat, where Paul apparently was being extremely belligerent and extremely rude and abusive to his friends. He wanted him not to drive the boat, but he did anyway. And the more they argued, the faster he went. And this was the boat they were on, and you could see that it was obviously in a serious accident. And what happened was the boat hit a bridge, and everyone was tossed. Everybody was injured in some form or another. Some people more seriously than others. There was a couple of broken bones, some serious gashes and cuts. But this girl that you see here, her name is Mallory. Last name
Mallory
is
Beach.
Mallory Beach. That's correct. Who was not his girl? It was his best friend's girlfriend.
Correct.
She was tossed from the boat, apparently hitting her head, going into the water and drowning. And they could not find her. Everyone else made it to shore. Police were called, but Mallory was not found. As a matter of fact, it was a few days before they actually found her body 5 miles down the river, I believe it was. The blood alcohol level was 3 times the legal limit.
At the hospital, like a couple hours later.
Yeah. This wasn't even in the action and during all the stuff was going on.
Right.
Again, Paul tried to convince the police at the time, and the police work, I'm going to tell you, was a little bit shoddy at the scene because they never really established if somebody was responsible at the scene, because Paul told them his buddy, I think it was Colin or something, was driving the boat. And they didn't really argue with him or anything.
Did Paul actually tell them that, or did Alec?
I think it was Alec tried to cover up as well
before the ambulances even got there. He was like there right away.
Yeah. Well, everybody was calling family, obviously. And Alec did get there, and he tried to convince them as well. But I believe Paul did make a statement that he wasn't driving the boat. Anyway, bottom line is Mallory died, unfortunately. Again, blunt force trauma to the head from the accident and then drowned. And there was a wrongful death lawsuit naming the whole family, Alex, Maggie, and Buster, and the convenience store that sold Paul alcohol.
Because he was using his brother's license.
He was using his brother's ID to buy alcohol. And so they were suing the whole family and the convenience store for what happened.
I have to give them a lot of credit because of how prominent the family was. It did take a lot of courage to go against them.
The Beach family, from get-go, never once did they back down from this.
Right.
They were pushing this thing all the way. Daddy showed up at the hospital wearing his badge. Yeah, wearing his little fake badge.
Casually hanging off his pocket for everyone to see, yes. I don't know why I would wear my badge like that.
I don't know. Mallory Beach was only 19 years old. By the way, Paul at the time was 17 years old. And they have him on camera buying the alcohol without an issue. So this was definitely a wrongful death. This case was still being put together when the next round of insanity happens. So this case is now taking a back seat, but the case is still open against the estate, against the store, against other things. So there are things going on. Unfortunately, Paul will not face justice because, as we will soon see, Paul does not make it much further than this in our story.
Yeah.
So I think that covers the boat accident, but this was just insane. So if we got 2015, the death of a young boy, 2018, the death of the housekeeper, 2019, the death of Paul's friend in a drunken boating accident. And if that's not enough, we're going to jump forward to 2021. Now, understand again, as we've kind of given you a little foreshadowing, during this time also, Alec Murdaugh, who is working at his family founded law firm, it's been around since 1910, has been embezzling money and stealing from clients and stealing from the law firm and keeping a huge oxycodone habit going.
Wow. Do you really think that he could spend that much money on oxys? I don't think what he was trying to say, I mean, he would be dead if he took that much every day.
He was basically, they did the calculations. He said he stole all the money to support a habit, thinking that addiction would get him out of this.
Yeah.
But they said the amount of oxys he could have bought with the money that he stole would have lasted him, if he was using as much as he said he was using, 110 years.
Yeah, so, it's ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, maybe he was addicted, but not to the extent that he's trying to say.
It's either that or he was getting so ripped off by his drug dealer. No, really, you're $1,000 a pill. Come on. So this is all going on. Now, it is June 7th of 2021. And do you have any setup for this at all, or should we just jump right in?
I mean, jump right in because, we're on a time crunch and there's a lot to cover.
We are on the time crunch because this is going to take a while. On June 7th of 2021, Alex, like I said, they own several properties, including like a hunting property right next to their house, which is another property, but it was all kind of close by.
Yeah, and then they have a beach house somewhere.
Yeah, they got a beach house somewhere, and
Yeah.
obviously they used to have a boat. What? Too soon? All
I'm
right.
sure they replaced that.
Yeah, that don't float. So on June 7th of 2021, Alex at 10 o'clock at night, or I think it was 10:06 or something, called 911 and said that he had gone to the hunting property where they had their hunting dogs and all this stuff, looking for his wife and his son, Paul. So Maggie and Paul were at the hunting property. His explanation about where he was before that, we'll get into that in a minute. But he went to the property, 10:06, he calls 911 and says, my wife and my son have been shot. And I checked them and there's no pulse. And he did sound the recordings of this. I was going to bring a copy of the recording on, but I didn't want to go that far. Because if it was acting, it's evil how he can make himself sound.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the police did come. And
now wait, when he was still on the 911 call, right? He
Yeah.
stated, I'm going to go back to the house and get a gun. So
right.
You find your wife and your son shot to death. And from what I hear, it's a very graphic scene.
Yeah.
And that's the first thing you think of, is to tell the 911 operator, I'm going to go up to the house and get myself a gun. Why, if you're going up to the house, lock yourself in and wait for the police to get there.
Yeah.
Why are you going to go up and get a gun just in case there's someone still out there?
Yeah, that didn't make a whole lot of sense.
No.
He says, I need the police and ambulance immediately. My wife and child have been shot badly, is how he said it. Paul was struck in the chest with a shotgun and then shot again in the shoulder, which actually went into his neck. And it actually, let's say that the top of his head, his brain has evacuated his body. It was catapulted out of his body because of the force of the shotgun blast. His wife was lying face down in the mud about 30 feet away. And this is just going to show you, where the two of them were. It's kind of hard to see all of the different things, but they were about 30 feet away from each other. And she was found face down in the mud, 30 feet away. She had been shot with a rifle at least 4 times, once execution style in the back of the head. Now, she had been shot in the front and the back.
Yeah.
The assumption was that she was running away.
Yeah.
When she was shot.
Yeah.
And then the job was finished. So two different guns, I guess, to create the illusion there was 2 shooters. And
I guess, yeah.
That is what happened. He suggested immediately, within the first few minutes of talking to police, that it has something to do with the litigation about the boat accident, that people were trying to hurt his family because of the boat accident. He set that up brilliantly right from the beginning. Yeah, he said they were after Paul because of the boat accident.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a narrative that he had started building even before this all happened.
Mm-hmm.
So what does all this mean? Here's the problem. He says he wasn't there. And this
he said he said he never went down to the kennels.
Yes.
And then they looked at Paul's phone.
His first story, his original story that he was very clear on. It wasn't like there was any ambiguity there. He wasn't like maybe this happened, maybe that. He said Maggie and Paul went to the kennels to do stuff. And he goes, I think that's where they went because I took a nap. I woke up, I called them and said, I'm going to see my mom and dad. And I left. When I got back, I couldn't reach them. I couldn't reach them while I was gone. So I went up to the kennels and then I found them. I was never at the kennels. That was his story all the way through.
Yeah. 3 different times he put that on record.
Yes. And they've got him in the police car saying it and in the interview room saying it.
Yeah.
And he didn't waver from that at all. I mean, it was very matter of fact. He knew every detail of everything. And then electronics got him. Tell us about the phone, Therese.
So they found a Snapchat video on Paul's phone because he was boarding one of his friend's dogs and there was a problem with the tail or something that he wanted to show him. So he was taking a video. And in the background of the video, you hear Maggie's voice and you hear Alec. 5 different people that have known him for 20 years have said, that's Alec. That's Alec's voice. That's Alec.
Yeah, and the prosecutor ate that up with that
5
phone.
minutes before they were shot. Well,
Yes.
5 minutes before they assumed they were shot.
Right. So that recording was at somewhere around 8:48 or 8:45, somewhere around
Something
there.
like that, yeah.
The assumption was that they were shot right around 9 o'clock.
Right.
So it was just a few minutes.
It's like 8:49 or something.
And see, he plotted and planned everything out, including alibi and phone calls. Yeah, he was making phone calls to their phones, knowing they couldn't answer because knowing they were dead, so he could prove that he was concerned, and he did certain things. But he had no idea, just to the extent that we could track these things on phones. They knew exactly how many steps he took when he had the phone in his hand. They knew all of this stuff. And again, the prosecutor, here he is. I mean, this was like his smoking gun, this phone. The texts that were done and the steps that were taken, and then the videos. This video was even taken a little earlier in the day of him with his son wearing these clothes. Now, the funny thing is he changed his clothes 3 different times that day, and which is odd in itself.
Right. But it's south and he sweats.
He sweats. He sweats because of the pills. So now again, let's bring it. I will not be surprised when all this is done and said, when he really gets backed into a corner, he's going to come forward and say the addiction made me do it. And I hope that will not hold up. There's just too much going on here. You know, this was not an accident that happened here. He brought 2 guns to kill 2 people. This is crazy.
Well, so that brings me to my question. Do you think the jury is going to find him guilty?
I think so. I mean, I can't imagine. Now, everything he claimed, they proved that he was there on the site after now, it wasn't like he wasn't sure what happened. He lied about it. Then he changed his story. Yes, I did lie. Why did you lie? Well, I did lie. Why did you lie? He didn't have a real reason for lying. He says I was uncomfortable or something.
He didn't trust SLED.
He didn't. He what?
He didn't trust SLED, the prosecutor, the special police they brought in.
Oh, okay. He didn't trust the guy. Yeah.
Also,
so he lied.
When he was up at the house getting the gun to go apparently back to the scene of the crime, he called like 7 different people, and all of these lawyers showed up.
Yeah.
Shortly around the time that the police showed up. So all these lawyers, his law partners, are all wandering around watching Hawkeye and these police officers. So they called in the special, whatever they are, SLED they're called.
This is him with one of the police officers at the scene. Starting, and all of this was recorded. I'll tell you this, the police did an excellent job. Pretty much every moment of that whole scene when they showed up was recorded in some way. Dash cam videos and different things like that. And so almost every statement he made was right out there for everybody to hear. And then a lot of them were, disputed. Again, he said he was never at that property, and this is where the property was, where the dog kennels were and everything else. And that's where his wife and son were killed. He was not there. They proved that he was through this Snapchat.
Yeah.
I don't trust, and this is why social media.
Snapchat gets you every time.
That's right. The clothes he was actually wearing, the clothes they saw in the earlier video and things, they can't find them.
Correct.
There was actually blood splatter on the shirt, one of the shirts that he was wearing.
He said it was from him checking their pulses.
Yeah, checking their pulses. But at that point, it wouldn't have been, it was spray, not splatter. It was spray. Spray is different. Spray is from high impact. Spray you don't get when you're checking the pulse. You might get splatter from different things, but you don't get spray. So he's got like a lot going against him. And again, the smoking gun is his phone, as it were. The guns were never retrieved,
Right.
but Buster was seen after the crime with his uncle moving guns away from the house. And there's no real explanation of that.
Did they determine that that's exactly what they were moving? They were moving something. I don't
They
know
said
if
there
they
was one gun, but they couldn't
proved it.
determine whether it was one of the guns.
Okay.
But they were moving other things.
Okay.
So the whole family's involved in this, and somehow,
Well,
I mean, I don't know. So all of this is going on now. Let's go back to the beginning here.
let's go back to the beginning.
We're going left to right. We got Buster, who is now somewhat implicated in the death of the young boy from back in 2015. We've got Mom, Paul, and Dad there. Mom and Paul are now dead. Dad is the survivor, and he is up on embezzlement and fraud and all these other charges, including losing his law license and, of course, facing murder. And that brings us to today. And this is now Paul Murdaugh with his bevy of criminal criminal defense attorneys, all trying to protect them from this guy. What's his name? Waters?
Creighton Waters, yes.
And I'll tell you what, this isn't like OJ. This guy's got this thing under control. He knows what he is doing. He is killing it left to right, up and down, back and forth. He is nailing. I think there was 7 or 8 different incidences when Alec took the stand where they proved he was lying about something. 7 or 8 different things that were like big lies, not like little lies, not like, oh, I forgot what time that was. Big lies.
Oh, yeah. And he brought them all up today.
Yeah. He went through it.
I actually was listening to his closing arguments, and I was, I fast forwarded a little bit because it was kind of tedious. It was getting a little boring, right?
Yeah.
And then they took that 15-minute break. And then he came out, guns blazing. He laid it
after that 15-minute
out.
break, he laid it all out. And he was no more Mr. I'm doing my job kind of. It was like this guy was vigilante style going after him.
Yeah.
You're right. It was a killer. I think it lasted about 2 hours after that.
No, it didn't. No, only like a half an hour.
Okay.
Not much longer after that. I think it wasn't official. I think that there was some question of some jurors cussing at each other over the bathroom. So I believe it was a break just to give the jurors a chance to use the restroom.
I wondered about that because they go on for hour after hour, and I'm sitting there like, if you're a juror and you got to go pee, what do? You raise your hand and say, "Excuse me."
It was kind of they were talking about it while they were waiting, some of the reporters that are covering it. And they said it was kind of an unplanned 15-minute break. And then they heard 2 jurors talking, and what was said was something like, "No, you're effing not," or something. And it was over who's going to be first at the bathroom. So I think that somehow they let the judge know that they needed a bathroom break.
Tracy S. McKinley.
Who's that?
I'm not sure. Nicole, who is that you're sharing with us? Tracy S. McKinley. Let's see. Yeah, he called so many people to the crime scene. They're trampling over possible evidence. Love the prosecutor, like Columbo. Yeah, it was. Yeah. He was like Columbo because he would you think he's done it. You're like, oh, wait, one more thing.
Yeah.
And then he kept trying to set him up. Now I'll give him credit for this. The prosecutor kept saying, "Would you like to add anything to that?" And he goes, "I'll answer any question you ask me." He would not volunteer anything. He would not speak until he knew what they knew first.
Well, no, that's not true.
Why? Did he get caught?
What Waters did a lot was take these long pauses. And so he would ask the question, Alec would answer the question, and then he would take this long pause. And Alec would start talking again.
Yeah.
I
saw that. That was really good.
Yeah.
Because
he said, "I'll just let him talk."
Did you shoot your wife and son? Did you shoot your son in the neck? No. Did you shoot your son in the chest? No. Did you shoot your wife in the back? No. And then he would pause and he'd say, and then Alec would just blurt out, "I never shot them anytime. Anytime I never did. Never shot them." It was like,
yeah.
And he would do those kind of things.
Yeah.
But when he was asked directly, he goes, Waters would say, would you like to add more to that? And he goes, if you ask me a question, I'll answer it. So he did not like sit and tell long stories. He was very careful not to overstep what the prosecutor already knew, but he got panicked when he didn't believe he was being believed. I think that's what we saw happening. Yeah. And now
he couldn't stand the long pot. He couldn't stand the silence.
No, he couldn't.
No.
People who are megalomaniacal, people who think they are all of that and wear badges when they're not really official police people. People who are like megalomaniacal, yes. Okay. Egomaniacs. People who believe they're all that. They don't like not being believed. No. And they don't like silence.
No.
Because silence, do you want to find out about somebody? Sit in silence with them for a long time. See, you'll find out about what their character is. And his character becomes very squirrely and kind of unnerved, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
So this is the story. Where we are now is the trial started January 23rd. They were expecting it to be wrapped up by now, but it did go long. Mm-hmm. It went long for another reason, because if there's not enough color to all of this yet, if it's not exciting enough for you folks, there was a bomb threat during the trial. They had to evacuate the building. Probably the people about the boat again. Who knows? I mean, there was a freaking bomb threat during the whole thing. Just pointing out, the prosecutor would walk away and have a drink of water, and it would be like, he was so slow when he walked away too. He'd walk over to that bench, or if he's queuing up a video, he would take so much time to do it. And I'm like, this guy's slow playing.
He would shuffle his papers.
Yeah.
Like, keep talking, Alex.
But when he gets talking, he's going a mile a minute. He's animated. He's this and that. And then all of a sudden, he'll take that pause. He becomes Grandpa Moses, just kind of shuffling across the room. God. So, all sorts of problems. He got caught 6 ways to Sunday. He got caught lying. He got caught in having, when he told his lie, he could tell you every minute of what he did. Once they caught him and said, well, what happened during this 6 minutes? What happened during this 6 minutes when you went there and your phone, you were moving around? What were you doing there during that time? You remember everything else clearly. What happened? I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know what I was doing.
Is it possibly when you were hiding the guns? Is it possibly when you were doing that?
No, of course not.
Yeah, of course not. Yeah, no.
What was another thing that I thought showed a lot of his character is when he was asking him, you sat across from the table to people that you cared about, that you admittedly cared about, and lied to them as you were stealing their money, telling them you were taking. And then he's like, can you tell me one example of that? Because, he admitted that, obviously, because he's trying to get into federal prison rather than state prison. But he could not sit there and tell him one person that he felt bad about doing that to.
Right.
Well, I had multiple conversations. Well, okay, so tell me about one. Well, I had multiple. I did it to many people. Okay, so tell me about one. He wouldn't do it. He wouldn't do it.
Here's one more funny little piece of evidence. See, they could track phones now. And his phone had like tracking stuff on it. So they could tell it every minute where he was. And his phone showed him pulling up and stopping at the kennel in whatever vehicle he was in at 10:05:57 p.m. So he came to a stop at 10:05. Less than 20 seconds later, he was calling 911. So in 20 seconds, he discovered the bodies, checked their pulses, panicked, and then called 911 in 20 seconds.
There was something with Paul's phone flipped out onto the ground, and he did something with that. I don't know. It fell out of his pocket when he turned him over or something.
Oh, when he grabbed the phone, he wanted to explain why his prints were on the phone. I bet he was on there because he wanted to like erase it or something. But he wanted to explain. Yeah. So all of that in 20 seconds. So nothing makes sense.
It said that he turned their phones off.
Yeah.
That both of their phones went to off. So I think that's why he touched the phone. It's because I think he was turning it off, but that wasn't obviously his explanation. But
Well, if convicted, they rested their case just the other day. They're doing their summations now. If over 61 witnesses were called, by the way, over 61 witnesses. If convicted, Alex faces 30 years to life without parole. Now I've got to wonder, what else is going to happen? He's still got the financial charges against him. Mm-hmm. I guess I don't know if there's anything left with the boat thing. They're reopening the case of Stephen, the Stephen Smith, the young boy. There still might be some question about the housekeeper. Buster is not free and clear by any way, shape, or form. It is possible that he was aware of the money and was trying to hide some of the money with his father. They alluded to that, but they're not sure of that yet. There's so much going on with this family. But those four people who basically, living where they lived, they had it all. They had the cars, they had the properties, they had the careers, they had respect, they had everything. And now just absolutely destroyed. And here's the thing. There has never really been a real good explanation as to why. You can point to motive of insurance. You can point to motive. It's even been the motive of he wanted something to distract from the financial thievery. There hasn't been any real motive that's been brought out that makes any sense, unless you know something.
No. I think that they're alluding to the fact that he was getting nervous about the boat case because looking into the boat case was looking more into his financials, and he was going to be found out. And he, at one point, when the law partners were confronting him about missing money, he did genuinely get a phone call that his father was very sick and gravely ill in the hospital and may not make it. So as soon as he took that call and told the woman that was questioning him that this person that they all knew and respected was, on his deathbed, she backed off and said, "What can we do for you? What do you need?" So they're thinking that he found out, if something serious happens, they let the financials go for now. So they're alluding to the fact that that was his thinking.
That's quite possible. Yes, absolutely. Now we forgot to mention one piece. We got 3 minutes. I want to get this in real quick. The double murder happened on June. In the very beginning of September, somewhere around 2nd or 3rd of September, his law firm caught on to the real totality of what was going on, and they let him go. Mm-hmm. He says he walked away. They say they let him go. Either way, he's out.
Oh, that's right. We forgot this part.
And the next day, September 4th, he calls 911 saying, "I'm on the side of the road. I got a flat tire." And if you listen to this 911 call is the strangest call you ever want to hear. He calls. He goes, "Yes, I'm stuck out on the road. I had a flat tire. A stranger pulled over to help me, and he shot at me and left." And she goes, "Were you hurt?" And he goes, "Yeah, I think I got hit. I'm bleeding from the head." He doesn't call and say, "I got shot in the head." He doesn't call and say, he goes, well, he set the story up before he even told, he buried the lead. The lead is I got shot in the head. Why did he do that? Because he wanted to make sure he got the story right.
Well, he knows it's being recorded.
He knew it was being recorded.
Yeah, the 911 calls are recorded.
It was a friend of his that he had come out, or a cousin, or a drug dealer.
He's not really a cousin. They call him a cousin, but he's not really. I guess he's just a very good friend and drug dealer.
And whether the guy actually did it or he did it himself, there's some disagreement about that. It doesn't matter. It was set up for him to get shot and killed, and his son would get $10 million.
Supposedly.
That's supposedly what had happened. I don't know how you shoot yourself in the head. It's not even really, I don't even think they've really forensically figured out exactly what happened.
Well,
if he actually took a bullet to the head.
It was grazed.
Yeah.
But the guy, they put him on the stand, And he said, yes. Alec asked him to do this. He said no. And then they were at the side of the road. They started to argue. He was trying to shove the gun into his hands, and the gun went off and accidentally grazed him.
Yeah.
That's what Mr. Smith says.
So after all of this stuff, he was either trying to fake a death attempt or trying to kill himself. Either way, another desperation move. Each one of these moves gets more and more desperate. You know, the death of the child at the beginning, Stephen, then the housekeeper. Now there's a thievery going on with that. Then the boat thing, and then the covering that up. And then now the double murder, still money going out the door, still stealing going on. He gets caught. Now he's going to try to get $10 million from the insurance company. I mean, worst case scenario, he was trying to kill himself. Best case scenario, he was trying to make it look like somebody was trying to kill him to take them off the scent of the people who killed his family, who was him. So that's where we are, folks.
That's where we are.
Good. Lance says, good show, Scott and Therese. Great synopsis of this case. Thank you. And if you haven't been watching it, if you go to YouTube, pretty much every moment of the trial is on YouTube. You can take different segments and watch pieces of his cross-examination, watch pieces of the summations, or especially the prosecutor's summation. And we're going to see a resolve to this. I don't think. All right, so we got to end the show.
All right, we're going to end the show.
But we need to put it down here because we're looking at a possible decision by tomorrow night or Friday, possibly.
I don't think
maybe going into next week.
Yeah.
Well, that's the question. First of all, do you think guilty or not guilty is going to be the charge? And second, do you think it's going to be a fast jury decision or a long one?
I think it's going to be a long jury decision. And I think it's either going to go guilty or a hung jury.
Really? You think there's a possibility of a hung jury?
Mm-hmm.
See, I think he got caught in way too many things. If it was one or two problems that he got caught in, but he got caught in way too many things, they were allowed to bring in a lot of this past discretions and indiscretions and a lot of the things going on. This family has been painted as like Son of Sam multiplied. All right. I think it's going to be a fast decision, like less than a few hours.
Really?
And I think he's going to be guilty.
Good.
You know, now he's a lawyer. It's not the end of it. He's going to appeal. There's going to be shit going on forever with this case because he is a lawyer. And apparently he is somewhat intelligent, just not intelligent of the ways of Snapchat. If he understood Snapchat and Instagram and all that shit, he still would have got away with it. But he did not.
Honestly, if Paul had sent the Snapchat, like if he had gotten to be able to send it, he took the video, but he hadn't sent it to anyone.
Right.
Because once you send it, it is only visible for that person to look at, and then it disappears somewhere. I'm sure it can be recovered, but
it could still be saved on his phone unless he deletes it, though. Because even if you send the video to Snapchat, it's still saved on your phone unless you delete it.
I don't know.
Unless you record it directly into Snapchat. If you make a video and send it to Snapchat, it's on your phone. If you record it directly into Snapchat, then it doesn't stay. So
right, but if you record it directly into Snapchat, but you don't get a chance to send it yet, I think it stays.
It's going to be a crazy one. Everybody, join us next week. We will certainly wrap up this thing with a bow.
2 weeks.
Oh, in 2 weeks. Join us in 2 weeks. We're going to wrap this thing up with a bow. And we're also going to have some updates on some of our other favorite cases, including the Daybells and the Vallows and the zombie family from the Midwest. My whole answer is take the rednecks and the zombies, put them together. We'll make a film, Rednecks versus Zombies. Whoever comes out on the top goes free. Any other thoughts, Therese?
No, it's a lot. It's a lot.
It was a lot to unpack. Folks, thanks for joining us. Make sure you stick around, check us out on our future shows. We'll see you in 2 weeks. But for now, I'm Scott.
I'm Therese.
And everyone, please be good to each other and have a great night.